If everything feels irritating right now, not scary, not emotional, just mentally exhausting, then this video is definitely for you. When your mind won't shut up, when everything feels like too much input, that's not emotional overwhelm. That's air energy with nowhere to rest. Anxiety is not always fear. Sometimes anxiety is just too much going on all at once. And we are all familiar with anxiety in one way, shape, or form. But the beauty of air energy is that it can be very quick moving. So, just as quickly as you get irritated, just as quickly as you get anxious, is as quickly as you can feel better. It's all about a mindset shift and working with the energy. So, in today's video, I'm going to be discussing air energy and anxiety. So, if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. So, welcome to day 18 of our 31-day wellness and astrology series. And today we're talking about anxiety through the lens of air sign energy. So, just to recap for a bit, we talked about emotional detox and water sign energy. We've talked about the need for grounding and earth sign energy. And so today we arrive at air sign energy, anxiety and mental stability. This is definitely a thing because I think that this is the thing that so many of us are acutely aware of at this time. Now, while this energy can definitely be indicative of like a lot of air energy in your chart or air dominant people, this information pertains to us all. Because like I said, there's not one person who escapes anxiety or who isn't familiar with anxiety. So the air signs, which are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and air dominant charts process life through thinking, analyzing, anticipating, communicating, and mental movement. So clearly we all do this. However, if you have a lot of planets in air signs, or if your sun or rising is in an air sign, this is definitely indicative of how you are designed. Air energy is quick, intelligent, and perceptive. But when there's too much mental input and nowhere for thoughts to land, the nervous system becomes restless. And the key phrase there is nowhere for thoughts to land. One of the planets, or should I say the planet of mental activity is Mercury. And Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, is also the ruler of Virgo. And in the Virgo sense, Mercury likes to be orderly. So thoughts either like to have a purpose or think of it as like having a destination. When your thoughts have no place to land, when they have no destination, this is when we can experience anxiety. This is when we can experience mental restlessness because it's just this aimless kind of energy. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that thoughts need to be directed. They need a destination. For air energy, anxiety is often mental overcrowding. Like I said before, it's not always fear. Although I do think that mental overcrowding definitely leads to fear, especially if you let your thoughts get away from you, right? But essentially, what the point I want to drive home here is that thoughts need a destination. So here's the misunderstanding. Most anxiety advice focuses on calming the body. But for many people, the body is already calm. The body is not the issue. It's the mind that won't stop. When air energy isn't regulated, it shows up as overthinking, mental loops, irritability, indecision, difficulty resting, feeling mentally on all the time. This isn't because you're broken or anxious by nature. Although if you have a lot of air in your chart, anxiety is something that you are quite prone to. This is because your mind needs space and structure, not pressure. And I use the word space and structure intentionally because that really encapsulates how Mercury works. Mercury in Gemini needs the space to explore. It needs the ability to be curious. Whereas Mercury in Virgo needs the structure, it needs a destination, it needs a purpose. So it's a healthy balance of space and structure. It's a healthy balance of exploration and destination when it comes to your thoughts and your mind. So now let's get into some examples of how air signs experience anxiety. So of course, we begin with Gemini energy. And for Gemini, anxiety comes from too much information at once. Remember, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Gemini needs the space to explore. It needs the space to be curious. But when there's too much going on, too much curiosity, too many distractions, that can definitely lead to anxiety. So this can show up as scattered thoughts, nervous energy, or jumping between ideas. The remedy for this is to reduce input. Try to limit distractions as best you can. Write things down, memorialize what is important, and focus on one thing at a time. This is definitely not the time to be multitasking. Next, we move on to Libra energy. And so for Libra, anxiety comes from mental weighing and relational tension. Too many options, too many choices, too much to weigh in on, and relational tension when things in your relationship aren't going well, when there's miscommunication, when there's misunderstanding. All of those could lead to anxiety, and it shows up as indecision, people-pleasing, and over-analyzing conversations. And so the remedy here is to, number one, make small decisions. Rather than trying to tackle everything at once, take things one at a time or take big things in bite-sized chunks. Release the need for perfect harmony, and this speaks directly to people-pleasing. Sometimes someone's invariably going to be mad, going to be upset, and that's okay. It's not kumbaya for everybody. It's not always the case that everybody wins. If there needs to be sort of a clear winner and loser, you have to accept that, and that will definitely help alleviate that anxiety. And then finally, we arrive at Aquarius energy. And so for Aquarius, anxiety comes from mental overload combined with emotional distance. Now, Aquarius sort of gets the connotation of being emotionally detached. And it's not that they're cold for no reason. It's just that Aquarius really lives in their head. However, when there's too much going on mentally, coupled with emotional distance, that can definitely give Aquarius anxiety. Aquarius likes to keep emotions at arm's length, but when emotions are a little too far out there, that's when anxiety could creep up. So this shows up as mental exhaustion, withdrawal, or just feeling disconnected. Remember that Aquarius is the sign of the collective. And so that isolation not only can feel uncomfortable after a while, but can definitely be anxiety inducing. And so the remedy here is to reconnect the mind to the body and the present moment. Kind of get situated within yourself. And I would even add that once situated, try to reconnect with the collective rather than being a lone wolf or isolated. All right, so it's clear that mental overload and overstimulation, too much going on, is really at the heart of anxiety when it comes to air sign energy. But the remedy for all of that, sort of across the board, you're either reconnecting or you're taking things one step at a time. So let's talk briefly about when overthinking runs unchecked. And this to me always reminds me of like a car with no brakes going downhill. It's like the speed just gets faster. It gets more erratic. It's more out of control. And that can definitely apply to our thoughts, especially when they have no destination, like I mentioned before. So when air energy doesn't get rest or clarity, thoughts begin to spiral, your sleep can suffer, emotions stay trapped in the mind, which is not the best place for them. Emotions are meant to be felt, right? And typically that's felt within the body. When they stay in the mind, it's this constant loop of over processing them, which kind of can feel like insanity, if I'm being honest. Decision fatigue builds. So rather than being able to make a decision, you just become more and more indecisive. And that just gets you feeling lethargic and tired even. And anxiety can feel constant. You feel like you're in a never-ending loop of anxiety. And here's the thing. Trying to stop thinking doesn't work. Because the more you say to yourself, well, I need to stop thinking about this, the more the mind keeps thinking about it. And then you find yourself in this vicious cycle where you just can't turn your brain off. And like I said before, sort of the remedy to this is direction. Air energy doesn't need silence. I think that silence can actually be antithetical to air energy. Air energy needs expression, it needs communication, and silencing it is sort of against its very nature. Rather than silence, it needs direction, it needs purpose, it needs compartmentalizing. And I want you to think of Virgo energy when you think about this. It's like if you've ever watched SpongeBob, there are times where they personify what's going on in his mind. And his mind is like this huge room full of file cabinets. And he's got different things under different files within each file cabinet. That's a great way to think about kind of having your thoughts ordered and a destination for each thought, if you will. But what's interesting is that when he's having like a mental breakdown or when he's experiencing anxiety, it's like there's a fire there. All of the file cabinets are open and disorderly. They're knocked down. It's like him running all over the place. I know that this isn't anything that you're not already used to or haven't heard before. But again, I think I want to hone in on this particular concept. Air energy doesn't need silence, it needs direction. And that can feel a little uncomfortable, especially if you're experiencing something like decision fatigue. The direction for your thoughts in that case is typically making a decision. And it speaks to the Libra energy I was talking about before, where understanding that there may not be a peaceful resolution to making a decision. Although it can feel difficult in the meantime, it's definitely a productive and constructive way to quell that anxiety. So once you give your thoughts your direction, or once you give your thoughts a direction or a purpose, or at least a place in the file cabinet where it belongs, that's when you can start to experience peace of mind as opposed to anxiety. And speaking of peace of mind, let's get into today's wellness tip, which is mental regulation for air energy. Okay, so this is just a quick little ritual that you can do or engage with anytime that you are feeling anxiety and you feel like you need a reset. So step number 1, get thoughts out of your head. Write or speak them. One of the things I love to do is voice notes on my phone. Rather than, calling somebody and unloading onto them, when I feel like I'm overwhelmed, when I feel like I'm anxious, even when I feel like I just need to process some things, I'll open up my voice notes and just record it there. I find that typically to be helpful. So you may want to do the same. You may want to speak out loud, even if it's to yourself, or you may want to write them down. Step number 2, reduce stimulation. So close some of those tabs, limit distractions, maybe put your phone on do not disturb. One of the things that fuels anxiety is urgency. The minute that you add urgency to the equation, anxiety just ramps up because now you're scared that something's going to happen or you're going to miss something. And that plays out very much in the realm of like notifications. It's so difficult to get work done when you've got not only a whole bunch of tabs open, but dings and vibrations and all of this happening all at once. So reduce stimulation. Step number 3, change your environment. Get some fresh air, do some light movement. Mental activity thrives on variety. And oftentimes, anxiety feeds on sort of being in the same place repeatedly, especially if that place that you're in is anxiety inducing, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to do the most. You don't necessarily have to do a full workout routine. Just go for a light walk. Or, one of the things I used to do when I worked in corporate is I would walk the stairs. And I found that a lot of people in the office used to do that too. Like some people did it for exercise. Other people would do it just to take a break, right? Instead of going outside, especially in the winter months when it was super cold, walking the stairs, going into the lobby, just light movement, getting some fresh air if you can, is always a great thing. Step number 4, focus on one task at a time. And I mentioned this before. Oftentimes we're anxious because we're mentally overloaded. It's just too much. And again, I want you to think of Virgo energy here. Parcel things out, compartmentalize things, and then figure out what warrants your attention and your effort, and sort of make a priority list, but do one thing at a time. That is going to be key. And then finally, give the mind structure, not pressure. The whole stop thinking or trying to limit negative thinking, that doesn't work. Give your thoughts direction, give them a purpose, and that way they can serve you instead of running you ragged. And keep this in mind. Air energy heals through clarity and circulation, not control. That's so important because that control, I feel like, is adding fuel to the fire of anxiety. So when you give them structure, clarity, and circulation, your thoughts can serve you. So for my air dominant people, I want you to remember this. Anxiety isn't a flaw. It's a sign that the mind is carrying too much alone. When thoughts are given space, containment, and direction, the nervous system softens naturally. You don't need to think your way out of anxiety. You need to let your mind breathe and allow it to operate in the way that it is meant to. And arguably the other thing I will say is reduce urgency, reduce stimulation. When you do those things, now you're talking about peace of mind. And that's definitely something that's super valuable, especially these days. Now, if you are air dominant and you're looking for ways to really not only understand how you're designed, but reduce anxiety in your life or make the most of your air dominant energy, then consider signing up for my signature natal chart experience, The Blueprint. This is essentially a natal chart reading and a transit report all in one. So you get a 60-minute live reading with me. You get access to a private online client portal full of resources. And then you get my 30-day alignment map, which is essentially a transit report for the month following your reading. So you know exactly what to anticipate and when to anticipate it. So if you're interested in that, the link to that is in the description box below. The first step is to book a free 15-minute clarity call with me so we know whether the service is even right for you and if so, how to get started. So again, the link to that is in the description box below. And if you haven't taken my self-care signature quiz yet, what are you waiting for? It's fun, it's cute, it's a great way to understand your self-care archetype a little better. And the link to that is also in the description box below. All right, my loves, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.